Okay, so if you've ever felt just completely overwhelmed by dating advice, or maybe you feel like your relationships, they just aren't quite matching the effort you're putting in, well, we've got you covered today. We are doing a really rigorous deep dive. We've got this stack of sources covering modern attraction, relationship psychology, and even clinical sexual health.
Yeah, it's a pretty potent mix, actually, because we're not just looking at the emotional side of things, the why behind connection issues. We're also digging into the hard physiological data, the how. So our source material, it kind of marries these self-mastery principles with, the biological facts of long-term intimacy.
The goal here is really to cut through the noise, move past the superficial stuff, and give you the actual foundational data you need. Okay, let's get into it. This deep dive, it's definitely for you if you're ready to stop, guessing, and start understanding how your own internal world, your discipline, your self-esteem, how that directly shapes your success in finding and keeping a real connection.
Yeah, and the sources are incredibly clear on this. Real attraction. It starts inside. So we kind of have to begin by looking at this common psychological pattern. It's often called the nice guy archetype. Now, this pattern, it frequently links back to specific childhood stuff, like maybe a weak connection with the father figure, and this is key, over-identifying with a mother who may be presented as an excessive victim.
Okay, so if that's the internal starting point, what does that actually look like? Behaviorally, in an adult man.
Well, it tends to show up as constantly seeking female approval, often the mother's approval, specifically over, say, the approval of other men, or even his own internal standards. And the result, you get a guy who's maybe overly obedient, avoids confrontation at all costs, and this is a big one, is constantly apologizing or taking the blame for his partner's feelings or moods. He sort of mistakenly thinks this performance of niceness is what women want.
And the sources nail this down as precisely why women can lose attraction. So the immediate takeaway seems to be that a woman loses respect and a desire for a man she feels she can completely manipulate or is consistently stronger than. They're looking for a partner who prioritizes respect over approval. Is that fair?
That's absolutely the core engine. If you're constantly caving on your own boundaries, ignoring major deal breakers just to keep things smooth on the surface, well, you're basically signaling low self-esteem. And this links straight into how you present yourself externally. The sources really stress that appearance. For both men and women, it matters. But not just vanity, it signals self-respect.
Yeah, we're not talking about being obsessed with looks, but more about discipline, right? Successful people, especially men according to these sources, often have these predictable routines like intermittent fasting, strict diet, early workouts. And the material suggests this isn't just about physical health. It's like a visible demonstration of sustained self-control.
Exactly. For men, the inability to manage impulses, whether it's food, drinking, spending money, whatever, it's described almost as a kind of slow suicide. It just erodes self-esteem. Self-control is the essential foundation for a man to really thrive, psychologically and professionally. And similarly for women, building confidence often starts with respecting their body, which frequently begins with discipline around diet and exercise too.
Okay, but what about the man's underlying motivation here? The source material makes a strong case that men often crave emotional intimacy, but they consistently mistake that need, or maybe mask it, as purely sexual preference.
Yeah, the goal shouldn't be chasing those quick dopamine hits, using alcohol for a bit of fake confidence. That just kind of kicks the can down the road on genuine growth. Real, natural masculinity, the sources argue, is built through consistent mental discipline, pursuing goals. Because that effort itself creates the self-respect that other people find genuinely compelling.
All right, let's shift gears a bit. Moving from that internal self-mastery to how external success actually impacts relationship criteria. The sources point out this really interesting, almost paradoxical dynamic with high-earning, very successful men.
It seems that as men get significantly wealthier or more successful, their criteria for a partner tend to get, more shallow. They can basically afford to outsource tasks that traditionally required a capable partner. Things like cooking, cleaning, even complex social or intellectual networking sometimes.
Okay, and this is where the finding kind of shifts our perspective on what people look for. Since those, let's call them functional needs, are met elsewhere, they often pivot. They start prioritizing attractiveness and sexual competence more heavily, seeking what the sources literally describe as a stress release to get home.
But, and here's the paradox, this can create long-term problems. Instability. The research suggests that highly successful men, CEOs, top athletes, they often stray when their long-term partner has kind of stopped her own self-development. The core issue becomes a lack of intellectual and emotional intimacy. He probably wouldn't mind a high-achieving partner at all, provided she still makes him feel nurtured and loved, not somehow masculinized or rejected by her success. Matching that intellectual level can actually be highly stimulating, not necessarily competitive.
That really highlights the need for continuous mutual growth, doesn't it? So let's talk about what women need for lasting interest. The sources lay out these three critical, non-negotiable ingredients, a kind of trifecta: attraction, admiration, and reassurance adoration.
Yeah, and if a man is significantly lacking in any one of those, the whole relationship structure starts to weaken. For instance, if the man isn't admirable meaning, maybe he's undisciplined, not achieving things, not even really working towards a goal, her interest is likely going to fade, especially once kids enter the picture. And what's really crucial here is that if the attraction piece is missing, then all that adoration or reassurance from the man, it suddenly shifts her perception. It stops feeling like loving attention and starts feeling like, well, neediness.
Okay, so that brings us right back to the nice guy issue and avoiding conflict. You mentioned earlier that women find boundaries attractive, but where do the sources draw the line on that? Because doesn't rigidity or even aggression sometimes get disguised as boundaries?
Yeah.
Isn't that just as unattractive?
That's a really important distinction, yeah. True boundaries, as these sources define them, aren't about rigid control or dominance. They're about clarity combined with self-respect. A partner who can clearly define their needs and critically can't just be manipulated. That person is automatically perceived as more trustworthy. And trust is absolutely fundamental for desire. The big problem with conflict avoidance, which is common in both the nice guy and, say, a codependent woman, is that these passive relationships, they just lose all their spark. Healthy conflict, started respectfully, using I feel statements, it's actually required for psychological growth and for keeping that sexual and emotional attraction alive. It shows the relationship can handle friction and get stronger.
Right. The friction is the spark, in a way. And the sources seem to define the ultimate commitment, marriage, through this same lens. It demands choosing one person, being ready to sometimes forego your own immediate desires to make the union succeed. You're prioritizing the success of the relationship itself over instant individual comfort.
We absolutely have to talk about the environmental factors shaping relationships today, technology especially. The sources give some pretty staggering stats on the whole digital content economy, like OnlyFans users went from about 8.5 million in 2020 to a whopping 170 million in 2023.
Wow. And that sheer availability, it seems profoundly destructive to real intimacy. For men, this instant access to cheap dopamine through porn or just digital validation, it leads to physiological issues like ED, sure. But maybe more importantly, a catastrophic loss of drive. But why bother developing the social skills, the attraction skills needed for a real-world partner when gratification feels instantly available online?
Exactly. The man paying for this kind of content, he's essentially trading his own self-respect for a very cheap substitute. And the core problem doesn't go away. This transactional thing is a poor replacement for the emotional intimacy he probably actually craves deep down. And for women, the constant stream of digital validation available online, it can really undermine the necessary mystery and loyalty within an existing relationship. They get that external reward without needing to invest as much in their primary partnership.
Okay, let's shift to infidelity now. The sources detail some typical dynamics behind why people cheat. For women, cheating is often triggered by what they perceive as a profound lack of masculinity in their partner, or maybe a deep craving for emotional connection they just aren't getting.
Right. Whereas for men, infidelity tends to be more compartmentalized, maybe more opportunistic. But fundamentally, it still stems from a lack of respect for the relationship and, crucially, a lack of fear of losing the partner. And here's a really kind of brutal insight from the research. If a man forgives a woman's infidelity without establishing clear, new, firm boundaries or demanding real behavioral change, that forgiveness is often perceived by the woman herself as a massive sign of low status. She might interpret it as him just being like free accommodation, a safety net, until she finds someone she actually respects more.
Okay, let's pivot now to the more clinical side of things, because sometimes understanding the physiology can actually provide enormous psychological relief, right? Starting with male performance. If you're a guy, maybe in your 30s or 40s, and you notice that sexual refractory period, the recovery time after orgasm getting longer, the sources explain exactly why.
Yeah, it's largely physiological. It naturally lengthens because testosterone levels gradually decline with age. And related to that, blood vessels can stiffen over time, especially if diet isn't great or there's high blood pressure. The fix isn't usually one magic pill, it's holistic. focusing on the fundamentals. Improving sleep, for example, which supplements like magnesium glycinate can potentially help with directly impacts testosterone loss. The sources also mention things like L-citrulline, which supports nitric oxide production, helping with blood flow. So useful tools exist.
And the sources also give a fantastic, immediate technique someone can use to help manage performance anxiety right in the moment. This breathe and squeeze routine.
Yes, this is a really powerful way to reset the nervous system. If you feel firmness starting to slip, the technique is you inhale deeply, and then on a long, slow exhale, think 6 to 8 seconds long, you do a gentle pelvic floor contraction. That subtle lift, kind of like stopping the flow of urine midstream. Repeating that just 3 to 5 times can often help regain firmness. It engages local circulation and, crucially, calms down that fight or flight autonomic nervous system response. It shifts you out of panic mode and back towards control.
Just knowing that is incredibly empowering, I bet. Okay, let's turn our attention to female pleasure science for a moment. Understanding the biological facts here really shifts the focus away from just male performance anxiety and more towards fostering mutual connection. The sources confirm, for instance, the clitoris has something like 10,000 nerve fibers, and it's the only organ solely designed for pleasure.
Absolutely critical information. And regarding intercourse dynamics, average vaginal depth is around 9 to 10 centimeters, But during arousal, it actually lengthens and widens significantly. There's a physiological process called tenting. It happens to comfortably accommodate penetration. It's also really important to bust some myths here. Having multiple partners does not permanently change vaginal size. Any perceived looseness is almost always due to a treatable issue, like pelvic floor muscle weakness.
Right. And finally, something we probably can't stress enough. Communication is just non-negotiable. The sources offer some brilliant practical tips for intimacy, like using a simple, focused, 5-word check-in during sex. More or less here or higher. Something direct like that.
And let's definitely not forget aftercare. So many women rate that post-coital decompression phase really highly, where the partner maybe eases pressure gently, uses warm hands, offers tender kisses, or even just offers a glass of water. Simple presence. Extraordinary lovers, the sources suggest, focus on connection and just being present in that moment, not immediately jumping up or mentally checking out. Hashtag outro.
So pulling all this together, what does it all really mean? Our deep dive today seems to reveal that the success of your relationships, it's almost completely defined by 2 key things. First, your internal self-mastery, that ongoing discipline and self-control. And second, your physiological health, but married with really precise, respectful communication with your partner.
Yeah, if you connect the dots across everything we've discussed, the common thread running through all these sources, from tackling childhood patterns to addressing performance issues, it really boils down to self-respect. Whether you're fighting a need for external validation or dealing with infidelity dynamics or performance anxiety, the path forward seems to consistently start and end with improving your own internal self-control and, as a result, your self-esteem.
It's that journey from seeking approval to commanding respect, isn't it? So here's a final thought to leave you with. If our sources suggest that women are often unconsciously drawn to, maybe even reward, a man who challenges them to respect his boundaries, and conversely, they're inherently repelled by men they feel they can completely manipulate. What foundational lie about kindness or passivity do many men perhaps need to stop telling themselves in order to find genuine respect and lasting desire? Think about that tension being a good partner versus being a disciplined individual.